Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Paul Garcia Show, the show where I speak to remarkable people from throughout the state of Illinois about their incredible lives, experiences, and insights. Today, it's my pleasure to be speaking with a living legend in the sport of wrestling. He's the first and currently only undefeated four-time Illinois state champion with a career record of 177 wins and 0 losses. He's a four-time Division I NCAA qualifier for the University of Northern Iowa, where he accumulated over 100 victories under head coach Doug Schwab. And now he's the assistant wrestling coach at Dakota High School, as well as the proud founder of Alber Athletics, where he's helped create multiple state and national champions. And he's also the founder of Alber & Son Earthworks, a thriving excavation company. And he's also a husband and father. Josh, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you making the time in your busy schedule to do this.
No, I appreciate you giving me time and a voice to hopefully get heard by some people.
Heck yeah, it's my pleasure. And before we kick things off, I should say, if you enjoy this episode, please like it, share it, comment on it, and be sure to like my page on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. If you want to support the show, you can donate on Venmo to The Paul Garcia Show, or you can become a patron on patreon.com/Paul Garcia, where you'll get early access to each and every episode for as little as $1 a month. Okay, with all that said, again, Josh, thank you for coming on, and tell me more about this excavation company. I only just learned about it, and it sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, so when I got back from college, it would have been 2019. I started working for my dad right away in a trucking company, and it was good for me, but I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it was kind of boring, and I've always enjoyed heavy equipment and things like that, so slowly started to branch into landscaping, small excavation type stuff, and we've been growing little by little here in the last 2 years, and just starting to get into more different kinds of work and things like that, and I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and I take a lot of the lessons I learned as a wrestler, and they're valuable in the business world as well.
Dude, it is absolutely obvious that the work ethic you had in wrestling is carrying over to the business world. The first 15 minutes you were here, you were on the phone nonstop with guys saying, hey, you need gravel? Hey, I can go send a guy here to get you that gravel today. Then you're calling your dad. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what was going on, but it seemed chaotic. But it's just cool to see. It's cool to see how busy you stay, and to see that work ethic that I respected in wrestling channeled over into the business world. It's very cool.
Yeah, and I recently saw a quote. I don't know who it was by, but it was, and I don't even really remember the quote, but it was just talking about lazy people work a little bit and think that they are done, and hard, like people with hard work ethics work really hard and still think they're not working hard enough. And that makes me think of my dad, and my mom as well. Like, compared to them, I'm lazy, to be honest. So just trying to keep up with him puts me in a good position. He's an extremely hard worker, and I just try to follow in his footsteps.
It's really refreshing for me to talk to other wrestlers. I'm a lifelong wrestler, but I was by no means a Division I caliber wrestler. I didn't have that mindset. I'm not cut from the exact same cloth, but it's refreshing because I hear wrestlers like you, former wrestlers like you, talking about how it's okay to really freaking work hard. And there's this weird thing in society right now where there's a lot of people saying, hey, be easy, take a rest day, take a break, be nice to yourself, self-love. And be nice to yourself, I guess, but it sounds like they're smuggling in this incentive to be a little lazy. And I like hearing people say, no, you know what, it's okay to work freakishly hard.
Yeah, and with my dad, if I am sleeping past 6:30 in the morning, he's calling me, I'm wasting the day already. So just little things like that, waking up early. But I've actually been thinking a lot about in wrestling. It seems kind of along the same lines. There's this just have fun attitude, and having fun's the most important thing. And
Penn State.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, not frustrating, but confusing, because these Penn State guys say just have fun and this and that, but I guarantee the amount of work they put in is they're not talking as much about that and the hard times, but they're going through adversity and hard times and things. And I kind of go against the grain on this, especially because I coach youth wrestlers, and you're not going to have fun if you're getting your ass kicked. Mm-hmm. So when we go to a tournament and I hear other coaches or parents like, oh, just have fun, buddy, just go let it fly. It's like, no, he's not going to have fun if he loses 10-0 and he's getting his face rubbed into the mat, So that's a tricky word. What is fun? Winning's a lot of fun, and even a good loss where you're wrestling somebody that is visibly better than you and you take it, push them, that's fun. But we run a little too heavy on the just have fun type thing when it's we need to do our best to win and to work hard so that because you're not gonna have fun losing 10-0 or losing to kids that really aren't that good, So I think I'm with you there. I go against the grain a little bit on the have fun or give yourself a little too much rest attitude.
Dude, yeah, you're firing me up right now. You are absolutely speaking my language. And with the Penn State guys, Roman Bravo Young, Bo Nickel, these guys saying have fun, we just go have fun. Bull crap. That's what they say on the cameras. And Cale Sanderson's a little secretive anyway.
Well, I've wrestled I wrestled Nick Lee twice when I was in college, and he beat me both times, and I guarantee he had more fun than me because he was winning those matches, So it's like, yeah, you guys, I bet you're having a lot of fun winning national titles and stuff, So, but yeah, I'm not saying they're wrong. Obviously, they're Cale's a genius, but I think there's more to it than they're not just having fun. I think they enjoy what they're doing. I think they enjoy the hard work. But I also think that their training's probably a little different, and just the mentality of they're doing something where stress and pressure doesn't seem to have much of an effect on them. And I think having fun in that way is critical for them. They still have fun in the big moments, meaning they're not weighed down, but, they're not necessarily have fun in the sense of they don't care. They care a lot.
Right. And I think maybe the have fun, I should clarify. I think that the have fun comes into play when they finally get to let it loose and let it fly on the mat when it comes match time. Right. I guarantee practices are not all fun. You see little leaked videos of them playing like handball and stuff like that, or spike ball, whatever. But that some of the battles in there, I'm sure fists are flying and they're just drenched in sweat. They're cutting weight. It's like they're not having all fun.
Right. Yeah, cutting weight, that's definitely not fun. So, there's more to it for sure, but like you said, Cale's secretive, and I would be too if winning was my job, and I wouldn't want to give away my secrets for sure. I'd like to know what he's doing so I could start implementing it with my club kids. Right.
And I want to talk about your club and your coaching philosophies all in just a little bit, but first we might as well kind of go in chronological order here. I know your dad got into wrestling kind of to avoid milking cows in the evening when he was in high school. And he went on to win a state title with his brothers, who also each won a state title as well. Yeah. But tell me about Josh Alber's story. How did you get started in wrestling?
I wouldn't even be able to tell you because my dad started me before I probably have memories, when I was that young. I've seen the pictures of my first couple matches, and I had tennis shoes on, and my singlet was taped in the back because it was too big. They took the straps and pulled them together and taped it, and that's the singlet I wore. I might have had a diaper on under my singlet, I'm not sure, but I was started really young, and I don't remember a life without wrestling, so I don't have like one of those moments where like, yeah, this is my first practice. I don't remember my first practice. I probably started practicing when I was 3 years old, so.
What do you remember about how your dad or how your coaches coached you? Do you have any memories of that? Like what kind of things were they telling you? How did they develop that championship mindset? What can you tell me about all that?
It's really not fair to a certain extent when, my dad was a state champion. Two of my uncles, he has three brothers, and two of them won state. My older cousin Vince won a state title. So I had a very unfair advantage compared to most kids. You're just born into it. They obviously have things figured out technically in wrestling pretty well, and they work extremely hard. And I just had a head start when I got started younger, and I was learning techniques faster, and I put in more time. We're not a hunting family, we're not a fishing family, we're a wrestling family, and that's what our hobby is. We put so much time into it, and at the end of the day, I just had a lot more time into it than most of the guys I was wrestling. So it was really unfair, I would say, being born into a family like that. How do you not get very good at wrestling when that's your pedigree, I guess,
I heard you say on the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, which, by the way, shout out to Ryan Warner. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Ryan.
You're the king of wrestling podcasts. I am not challenging you. Your stuff is awesome, and I appreciate it a lot. I've listened to probably hundreds of episodes, but anyway, I heard you say on that episode that in the Alber family, if you're a male and you don't wrestle, you're kind of a black sheep. Has anyone in your family not wrestled that's a male?
Yeah, I've had a couple cousins, and we tease them. It's in good fun. Like It's not, we don't like actually look down on them or anything, but you tease them a little bit, and but I understand them not wanting to wrestle either because they kind of want to do their own thing. So, it's not good or bad. It is what it is. But, yeah, we like to tease them if they don't wrestle.
They had to have been thrown into the sport at least for a couple years when they were really little, right? Like, that's not a choice.
Yeah, I think even the ones that didn't end up wrestling their whole time, I think they probably did at least a year or two when they were kids. But there might be one that didn't. He got lucky and he snuck out or something. But
that's hilarious. Well, what do you think about not forcing, but for lack of a better term, forcing your kids to do at least a couple years of wrestling? I know that's not a popular take in popular culture among parents, to force your kids to do a sport. But I think when it comes to wrestling, this is just my opinion, I'll probably make my kid, especially if he's a boy, do at least a year, maybe 5 of wrestling.
Yeah, my dad used to joke around. There was a time when I wanted to quit, probably 6th grade or something. I don't know. That time when you actually have to work hard. You're not just better than everyone anymore. You have to work for it. I think probably there was a time where I wanted to quit in there, and he's like, "Yeah, you can quit just as soon as you turn 18 and move out of the house." So, that's kind of the attitude we have, and I don't want to be like one of these crazy dads, obviously. And to a certain extent, if you force your kid to do everything, they're not going to get out of it what they you got to try to build in them that it's their choice. And even if it's not their idea, make them think it's their idea, so fool them into like it being their idea. So with my son, I'm going to he's going to be around wrestling. I'm going to take him to watch college matches and things so that I'm doing that on purpose, obviously, to build that interest in him, but he doesn't know that, it's just something that he does. So I want to do as much as I can to make it his idea. But then if he really does buck me in the end, well, it's probably too bad. He's going to have to wrestle.
That's spoken like a true wrestler. What would you expect from a guy like you, the 4-time undefeated state champ in Illinois? Of course, it's just, he's going to have to do it for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not, obviously I'm going to try anything we try to do it the best we can, and we want to be the best in the state first, and then try to be the best in the country, and then if he's good enough to do that, be the best in the world. But, even if he doesn't end up being extremely high caliber, it's good for him regardless. All walks of wrestling are good for you, whether you're a JV wrestler, varsity Division I think it's good for you. I think it teaches you a lot, and it teaches you a little bit of delayed gratification and self-discipline and doing things that sometimes you don't really want to do, and you got to push through those things. So it's good for it. It's good for you to wrestle, I think.
Oh, absolutely, man. It is. I would even take a step further and say it's crucial. It's imperative. If you wrestle, you have a leg up on a lot of other people in life. I mean, it's even for a guy like me who wasn't incredibly serious about wrestling. I mean, I was very serious. I wanted to be good, but like the success wasn't there. As high school and college wrestler. But when you go out into the real world and you work with other people, you see things such as giving up is way more common. To give up earlier on a given task and to complain is way more common than you would expect if you grew up in a wrestling room. And it's not sickening. It's actually a point of pride in a way. It makes you glad that you grew up a wrestler. And on a deeper note, to wrestle, I mean, life, the word Israel in the Bible, it translates to wrestle with God.
Yeah.
And really, life is a wrestling match. It's you have a goal and you're trying to manipulate the world in your life and your decisions into such a way that you bring about the goal that you have. And that's a struggle. It's not a dance. It's a struggle, and you've got to be tough.
Yeah. I try not to downplay the other sports. Obviously, I love watching all sports, even basketball I love to watch, but you can joke around too. I've never read in the Bible about basketball or football.
Jacob didn't play God in a game of hoops.
Right. And the other thing too is like it's cliche, but you don't play wrestling. It is a struggle. It is like a battle. So, And I don't know if there's any state where like boxing is a state sport. So really, wrestling's the only like mixed martial art that you can compete in high school,
Right.
sanctioned. You know what I'm saying? So that's wrestling is different than the other sports in the fact that it's a combat sport. It's a mixed martial art that you can compete in high school, where you don't get to do that in like boxing or whatnot. So it is a lot different than the other sports when it comes to that. Like really, it's kind of crazy that they let. I'm surprised in the world we live in today, you can even wrestle in high school, sanctioned by like the IHSA or whatnot, because it is a lot more brutal of a sport than a lot of the other ones.
Oh, yeah. When you get two solid guys wrestling each other, it looks like a fight without obvious punches.
Yeah.
There's still hard cross faces.
Yeah, and there's wrestling techniques where you're trying to like choke the guy a little bit, or and I always say like hand fighting was one of my strong suits, I thought, and I call it clubbing. I club you. It's a borderline punch every time I want to put my hands on you. So, it is kind of astonishing that we still get to do that in high school.
I know, but I'm so grateful for it.
I am too.
And I think society would actually be better. Like I've thought hard about this. I think society would be a lot better because a lot of young men, in fact, it's almost I want to say it's a growing number of young men are doing really crazy things in school because they have no outlet for their aggression. Yeah. Like it or not, young boys are going to have wild aggression. Give them an outlet for Pete's sake.
Yeah, I mean, and we see it with this like Adderall epidemic. It's not girls getting put on Adderall. It's not little girls. I'm sure there are, but if you look at the numbers, it's a high percentage of little boys that are put on Adderall, and it's because we don't encourage boys to be boys. We don't encourage or understand them. Like, yeah, they're not meant to sit in a desk for 8 hours. Like, little girls are more apt to want to learn that way that the school system is taught. And I'm not making, like, you need to be disciplined. Like, my child is going to listen to their teacher. They're going to do as they're told. But, man, we put those guys down. We sit them down for 8 hours. We tell them not to move. We tell them not to run around. We tell them not to roughhouse with each other. Man, it's like, that's their nature. That's their nature. And when they do go against that, then you got doctors saying, oh, he needs Adderall. He needs, it'd be good. It's like, no, they don't. They don't need it.
Right.
It's bad. Adderall is a amphetamine, and we're putting these kids on amphetamines. So, yeah, wrestling would cure a lot of that. But that's where I don't want to talk bad about the other sports, because all sports would be good. Even the other sports would be great for kids like that. They need to do something outside of video games and stuff like that. And but that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. But. Yeah, I think wrestling is an outlet for a lot of kids, and I know friends of mine that have said that wrestling's like the best thing for them, because otherwise they'd be doing a lot worse things.
Yes, and it's also the individual sport. You reap what you sow. It's all on you. It teaches accountability, unlike other sports can. Again, we talked about boxing. Boxing's great too, but that's not a high school sport. And also, there's something primitive in our DNA about hand-to-hand combat that it kind of just feels right. I'm incredibly biased. What do I know? But
it fires me up. That's for sure. Like my most memorable matches were with guys that maybe I knew personally, and I knew that they worked like I worked, or they had like where I was like, this guy is doing a lot of the same things I'm doing. So I know he's doing the right things off the mat. So I knew it was going to be a battle. And then he has that little bit of chippiness in him too, where he's not going to concede anything. And we'd be wrestling, and it would get a little chippy where he's hitting me a little, we're playing that line of, and I'm giving him headbutts a little bit, or and I love those matches. And then at the end of the day, a lot of guys that I was like that with, now I see him around, we shake hands, and we talk for 20 minutes. But when it's go time, it is fun to fight. I love to fight.
Oh, it is fun to fight for sure. Fun to fight for me in a wrestling sense. Like, I don't know how fun it would be to just start throwing elbows, and if I got kicked in the head, I don't think it'd be that fun. No. But when you're in a wrestling match, honestly, it can really just become an actual fight in a wrestling room. That is fun. To get a club to the back of the head that is, from downtown, whack, it makes you feel alive. Yeah, to get a hard crossface it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I try to get my little guys to understand that, and obviously they don't have as much testosterone flowing and things, but man, especially little kids too. You can get them fired up, and they'll get out there and battle, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. I love it.
You know what's tough though is getting them back to everyday normal life to go play with other kids, because they'll definitely take their friends down. Their friends will cry, and then it's weird.
Well, that's even a problem. I mean, I battled with that all the way through, learning how to turn that when it's time to turn the switch off. And there was times where I couldn't turn it off, and I'd say things to coaches or family members or friends, right? Pretty close after a match, or I was thinking about a match and things I regretted because I'm still in that mode where it's like, because when I was at my best, I would get myself mentally in that mode where it's like, I don't want to say, it's like a kill 'em all mentality, I guess. Like just destroy, I want to beat you up. Mm-hmm. And you need to learn to flip that off as soon as you get off the mat. And that can get murky sometimes,
Do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I love him.
Okay.
Yeah, I love listening to his stuff.
Yeah, I've read his books, and one thing that he says that's really true is, first of all, the word meek doesn't mean docile and wimpy or anything. It actually means to have, serious power and to be able to control it. People misunderstand that word when they quote the Bible, to be the meek, blessed are the meek, the whatever, I don't know what it says. But he says society kind of wants men to be docile, to not be too authoritative, to not be too aggressive, and he says that's completely wrong. You should be ruthlessly ambitious. You should be competitive. You should have insane work ethic. It's all okay, and then you control those things, and that's the test of a good man. A good man is not someone who's harmless and incapable of doing good, but someone who's extremely dangerous and could unleash hell but controls it. And I think that's really true.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of it like, it takes a lot to get me there, but once you get me to that point, I'm a different person. I can go to a point where if we get into a confrontation, and not like a fight verbally, but if I had to fight for something physically or had to protect my family, it would take a lot to get me into that mode. But if I was in that mode, I'm not going to take it easy. It's all out. And that's what I like about wrestling, because it's a little excuse. You got a 6-minute excuse to kind of get a glimpse of that mode where you can just tee off on somebody, figuratively tee off on somebody, and it's okay, So I tell that to my kids. I'm like, hey, you should enjoy this fight. You go club somebody at school, you're getting suspended. You go do this at school, it's no good. You get, in a kids match, you get 4.5 minutes to just be a bully and be a prick, and it's encouraged. Enjoy that little bit, and then you got to turn it off when you step off the mat.
Josh, you're doing a good thing for a lot of young men. I mean, really, your philosophies, this mindset is really what the world needs. And a lot of people are going to listen to this and think, this guy's crazy. They're wrong, dude. Yeah. They're wrong. You're speaking to that need for aggression, that need to fight that's in these young men, and it's going to keep them from doing terrible things elsewhere. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Stephen Neal, who was a world champ wrestler, and he also, I think he was 2 or 3 times Super Bowl champion for the Patriots.
Beat Brock Lesnar too.
Yeah,
didn't he?
He's the man. But he's a believer, and said something pretty cool. He said his mindset was Old Testament inside the circle. So inside the mat, he was Old Testament. When he was stepped off, he was New Testament. Which if you know the Bible, it's like, man, the Old Testament, it's like they kill everything. The animals like completely destroyed a whole group of people, and then New Testament's a little bit more forgiving. So I like that a lot. I kind of cling to that. Like I get to be Old Testament when it's when I got my straps up.
That is hilarious. I actually love that quote. Yeah. I'm definitely going to steal it. Hey, before we move on, though, I lost track of time. We got to give a quick shout-out to a beloved local sponsor. That's Fairbury Furniture in Fairbury, Illinois. They are Central Illinois' premier furniture store. Here's a quick word from them. Fairbury Furniture is Central Illinois' premier furniture store. This family-owned business offers a vast selection of premium furniture items from all of your favorite brands, including Sealy, Best Home Furnishings, Leather Italia, Tempur-Pedic, and Ashley, just to name a few. Also inside Fairbury Furniture is the popular WC Market, a beloved shop that offers an ever-changing selection of unique gifts and fashionable home decor. So make your home interior beautiful, comfortable, stylish, and delightful when you shop at Fairbury's own Fairbury Furniture.
Come on down to Fairbury Furniture, where the furniture rocks.
All right? That's Fairbury Furniture in Fairbury, Illinois, Central Illinois' premier furniture store. So, Josh, we were just talking about, the value of wrestling, but I want to talk a little more about your upbringing. When did you first really start taking the sport of wrestling seriously and recognizing that you really had some potential?
I'd have to say I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I remember starting to cry after I would lose matches. When I was really young, I was just having fun, I didn't really even know what winning and losing was. When I got a grasp of, man, winning's more fun than losing, I started to take it a lot more seriously. And I think my parents saw that in me when I started to realize, and then it gave them the okay to okay, we can, push them a little harder and put more time into this. You
said your dad, it was one of the happiest days of his life the first time you cried after a match because it showed him that you cared.
Yeah, there's a picture of me sitting on his lap crying and he's smiling, and it's he still to this day talks about and that's how we kind of judge where our club kids are at, when they're ready to push a little more is well, they really don't like losing, so we can push them a little more. We can use that to motivate them, hey, you don't want to feel that again, so this is what we got to do to correct that,
What kind of mindset did your dad coach you to have? And if there were other coaches, your uncles, I assume you're close to as well, they were also state champions. What were you what thoughts and mindsets were being implemented into your young brain?
I got to say, I think a mom gets overlooked a lot because most dads, I guess I can't say most, all the men that I've been around, they all are similar and very, they can get intense and be kind of give you the hard hand and stuff. But if you have a mom that your dad gets on you and you're crying like a baby and you go to your mom and she babies you, then you kind of alleviate that. But if your dad gets on you and you go to your mom who you expect to baby you and she's like, no, do what your dad said, he's right. Mm-hmm. That's when you can really get tough, I think. The moms are crucial because there's a lot of times where moms coddle their kids, and then if dad says one thing, well, the kid goes to the mom, and it's a different thing. Now mom and dad aren't in unity, and you're not going to get that kid to where maybe they can get. So my mom, not that she was a hard ass, she's a very loving mom, but there was times when she could tell I was being a baby, and I came to her expecting her to take it easy on me, and she said, no, your dad's exactly right. You need to toughen up. So and I kind of tease the moms in our club. I love it when the moms get on the kids because I'm now we're getting somewhere. Mm-hmm. My mom was crucial to my success.
Yeah, that's very interesting because that means your parents are on the same page. Mm-hmm. That's actually a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it's problems can arise when dad's the tough guy and mom's the antithesis of that. You're the opposite and you're raising the same kid. You could have some real disagreements and, the kid's he doesn't look at his parents. He looks at mom, totally different person, dad, totally different person. But hearing your parents did that, it's actually kind of touching.
Yeah, it's a blessing in my life that I have parents that were in unity and stuck together. And, that's another big advantage I had was just parents in unity that they were going to work together and they were on the same page and they were going to give to me and my two sisters what we needed to be successful. And that's just a blessing to me. It's most kids these days don't have that. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's critical.
Well, tell me about your two sisters. I didn't even think to ask about that. I think they might go overlooked when, you're talking about, you come from a wrestling family. Did they wrestle? What kind of girls were they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't wrestle. Well, they're 12 and 10 years older than me. So, back then the girls wrestling wasn't even really a thing. But yeah, man, my sisters are just as tough as I am. They both actually have, my oldest sister has lupus and my middle sister, Brittany, has, MS. So they both have autoimmune diseases and, you wouldn't tell. I mean, they're tough. They don't complain. They go on living there's days where you can tell they're not feeling good and you would never know because they're tough. And, like I said, I think they're tougher than me, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's really cool. What was your home life like, because there's going to be some parents that watch this and we're talking about, crazy parents and little kid wrestling. They exist. They're very common. But what was your home life like? Because I know that's a difficult thing to kind of get right when you're trying to raise your kids in the best possible way, and maybe raising them to excel in a sport if that's your goal. But what was your home life like?
I'm just extremely fortunate. I don't have to claim that I came up hard. Like, lucky, man. Like, I don't remember a time when we didn't have, money or I never had to worry about money or anything. My dad has made a very good living, and just my home life was two parents that loved each other. They loved their kids. They raised us according to biblical principles. They didn't let us get away with, being rude to our elders, or, we were supposed to be polite and well-behaved, and they did a good job of rewarding us when we did things right and disciplining us when we needed to be disciplined. And I know me and both my sisters to this day we feel forever indebted to how our parents, for how they raised us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get spanked when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not many times, though, because after the first couple, you know better, So I can't remember a whole lot of times getting spanked. I remember maybe once or twice, and I kind of learned my lesson.
And you mentioned biblical principles. They raised you according to biblical principles. Were you a religious family? Was it church every Sunday type of thing?
We have a little different outlook on. We don't necessarily go to a church. I think we'd like to go to a church maybe, but we get together as a family and just kind of do our own thing. Read the Bible and pray together as a family. There's a couple on Sundays when I'm not wrestling. We try to get some of the men in our area get together and just kind of do our own thing. We're not part of an organized church or anything, but my dad is very, very dedicated to getting himself and getting everyone that he loves in the Word, and so it's a big part of our lives for sure.
Heck yeah. I mean, that's the meaning of life. Get to heaven at the end of the day and get other people to heaven.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's got his eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
Were you ever part of a church? Just curious.
They were before I was born. And
you remember what kind of church? Or
just like a free, like a, I don't even.
One of those non-denominational
Non-denominational, yeah. I don't even really. I've never been part of a church system. I've just been part of like reading the Bible on our own and things like that. So I don't really know all the terms, but I don't remember going to church much.
You're just a bare bones Christian. It seems like you read the Bible, you do the best you can, you ponder the stuff, you meet with men, and you try to do good in the world. It's very interesting. I've never met anyone who's in quite that same situation.
Yeah, I think they were honestly stung by the church they were going to when I was really young. Just some money became an issue in the church, and there was some things some of the people in the church weren't living according to how they should have been living. And I think that put a bad taste in kind of my parents' mouth, and they decided that, maybe we can do it a different way than necessarily a church.
Yeah, man, it's not uncommon to see that type of stuff, especially in churches. Like, I've talked to a lot of religious people on the show, and I've heard a lot about it. I've looked into this type of stuff in the area, but like these churches where, no knock on churches that have elders, but a lot of the times when there's like a clear hierarchy with a group of men that are way up high, it's like problems can arise.
Well, it gets away from what the Bible says to do. I mean, it says to have elders, but people start to view themselves as greater or lesser than each other, and I mean, in the spirit, we're all brothers and sisters, and we're all on the same level, and people that maybe are new to the faith, they enter and they're right there with people that have been in the faith for a long time. You're not greater than each other, so I think that's easy to fall into that trap where, or even preachers we put them on a pedestal sometimes. When really, hey, they got to see themselves as part of us. They got to see themselves as servants, like we should see ourselves as servants.
Oh yeah.
And when that pedestal happens, goofy things happen in the church.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, talking about wrestling again, you started taking things serious at like 8, 9, 10 years old. This is what I thought was really interesting. I heard this again on the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. But when you entered high school, you had the goal of being a 4-time state champ. I don't know if you also thought 4-time undefeated state champ, but you said, if I wasn't a 4-time champ, I would consider that a failure. Tell me about why you felt that way, why you were so confident, and we'll just start there.
Yeah. I had so much exposure as a 6th, 7th, 8th grader as far as like we were wrestling. I was wrestling all over the United States. I was every state I think I've almost been to for a wrestling tournament. So I came into high school with so many matches, so much experience at high levels, at tournaments that I thought were harder than the IHSA state tournament. Mm-hmm. So, and that I'd done well at. So it's like, well, if I'm doing well nationally, there's no excuse for me not to win state 4 times.
Right.
So that's just it was like I've been swinging a bat with a weight on it for all these years. I'm about to take the weight off. Like I'm only competing against kids in my state and from small schools. Like it's in my eyes, it wasn't fair. I knew I had more time in it than them. So it's like for me to lose would be not fair.
Did you have any close matches that first year then?
Yeah, my uncle is the head coach, and he's kind of notorious for, like, he tried to get me to lose, I think, a couple times.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that, like, in the Dakota room, they're like, if you make it to the state tournament without a loss, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, like, our schedule's not hard enough. Like, our schedule's got to be really hard. So, early on, I weighed, like, 100 pounds my freshman year, and early in the season, he bumped me up to 112 in a duel to wrestle Jeremiah Shear. He's from Stillman Valley. So I was a freshman, 100 pounds. He was a senior, 112-pounder. And, I mean, I've heard he was weighing like 30, 31, cutting down to 12. So, roughly, it was our weigh-in, so he probably only got back up to 20, 21. But, so he was probably 20 pounds bigger than me at the time of the match. And it came down, it was a pretty crazy match. Came down, I threw him to his back with like 2 seconds left to tie it.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yep. And then we went like the full set of overtimes, and I ended up winning by a point in ultimate tiebreakers.
Were you ticked at your uncle after that? Were you like,
no, because I didn't care about, like, there was never on my mind like, oh, I can't lose a match in high school. Like I wasn't worried about protecting my record. It was like, let's go chase the big fish. I wanted to be like, if we were in a duel and there was a guy that was tough somewhere around my weight, and they're like, you want to wrestle him? I was always, yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome, man.
So I wasn't, that was fun, especially since I won.
I feel like that's the difference between the guys that really excel and the kids that are just good, solid competition, is that the good kids, they want to preserve the record. They want to continue to lose. They don't necessarily seek out the guys who have the best chance of beating them. Whereas guys like you were, like you said, you're seeking the big fish. You were looking for the guys who are going to beat you. And we'll talk about a one particular story later on, but would you agree with me, or do you have something to add?
Yeah, and I think I kind of lost that a little bit as I got older, because other factors start to come in where you have this record and the way people view you is different. And so then you do start to, you want to protect, and when you get that protect mindset, you don't wrestle as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it affected me a little later on. I didn't wrestle as well, but yeah, when I was young, like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year, it was like we were traveling the country, doing whatever, bumping up weight classes, bumping up age levels. When I was coming up 5th, 6th grade, I always wrestled an age class above my age class, just to try to get beat. Like, let's go try to get you beat somewhere. So, and that's what made me get to a pretty high level, I think.
Mm-hmm. The chase is always more well done than the preserve. These guys in the UFC, they will fight. Conor McGregor just dominated on his way to the title, and then preserving the title, it's like you see guys fall off all the time.
Yeah.
You got to keep chasing, man, climbing.
Yeah, I think, especially my senior year of college at the end there, I had a great senior year. I had a great career when it, but phenomenal senior year. I think I was on like a 22 match win streak in the second semester. I beat Ian Parker from Iowa State, Cade Brock from Okie State, Murin, Yaya Thomas, Ironman, Chad Red, Dom Demas. I think I beat them all almost.
I watched them all, man.
I beat them all almost back to back to back. And when I was doing that, it was that like go take attitude. There was no protecting me. It was go beat them. People don't think you can beat them. Go take from them. Go take from them. You don't have anything to protect. And then get to nationals time, and now I'm expected to do it again, and I'm the 4 seed, and I I was squeezing the bat too tight. You know, when you're swinging a baseball bat, you gotta let those hands slide. When you're squeezing too tight, you can't swing the bat. And I think that's what happened to me at the end. There was I got back to that protect, squeeze mindset, and the results were not what I wanted. Obviously, you know.
That's genius. Yeah, you can't squeeze the bat too tight. That's a great metaphor.
That's a Doug Schwab metaphor who, like, my college coach, Olympian, one of the most influential men in my life, and that's his metaphor. So,
dude, we're gonna talk about Doug Schwab. I love that guy.
I mean, he's awesome.
His mindset, the way he talks, even is just. It's gold, man, and we're going to talk about him in a sec, but I wanted to show you this video. You've seen it before, I'm sure. I just thought it was really interesting. You know, you're talking about how if you didn't win 4 titles, you would have considered yourself a failure. And here's you winning your freshman year, and it was so interesting, and they can hear the sound, but we can commentate, but what's going through your head here? There's little old you.
Yeah, my singlet's too big. I don't know, I did it like... I should have won, you know. I should have won. That's kind of what I thought.
It's ridiculous how chill you are. You're a freshman who just won a title, undefeated. And I believe the top comment on this video is, that's the most chill 103-pound freshman state finals victory I've ever seen. And that's true. You look disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, looking back now, I wish I would have given myself a little more fun with it after I won. Like, you know, there were times where I was like, had this, I don't know if you call it the never satisfied attitude. Kind of, it's synonymous with the Hawkeyes a little bit, I think, is where it probably comes from. Like, never satisfied, run into the tunnel, don't act like you've been there. You know, it's like, I like a little celebration. I like that, you know, enjoy the moment a little bit, because you don't get many of those moments, you know. So sometimes I didn't always enjoy them like I probably should have.
Right. Were you a big Hawkeye fan growing up?
No, I was Oklahoma State.
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My parents were Hawkeyes fans, and we'd go to college matches, so I think I probably just picked them because they're the antithesis of the Hawkeyes. But, yeah, I've never been a Iowa fan. And it got worse as I got older, and then I started wrestling, and so I really wasn't a Hawkeye fan. I like Jacob Warner, though. You said he's coming on the show. I like him because he's an Illinois guy, but... And Cassiope grew up near me, so I'm a big Cassiope fan, and you know they got good guys. I like Kemmer and Marinelli and all those guys, but Hawkeye fan in general, no, never.
Well, okay, so I wanted to talk about one of these matches. You know, you pretty much ran through the competition, to be honest with you, at the 1A level, but people are always saying, you know, he wouldn't be able to do this at the 2A level, at the 3A level, the 3A level especially. Your junior year, I believe, you faced Johnny Jimenez, and he was a nationally ranked wrestler. You faced him at the Dvorak, and you met him in the finals, and you got the victory over him without going into overtime, and it was a special moment for 1A guys watching that. Yeah. What do you remember about that match? And then I'll go into one more.
Well, like I said, when I was young, I wrestled everywhere. I wrestled all the 2A and 3A guys, and I'm probably 4 or 5-1 against Johnny. So growing up, I always viewed myself as a better wrestler than him. And shout out to Johnny, he's one of my good buddies, you know. But so when people were saying that Johnny was better than me or that I wouldn't be able to compete with these guys, like you guys didn't see in junior high, I beat all these guys, you know, I was right there with everybody. So, you know, to the outside fan or people that didn't follow me when I was young, maybe thought I wasn't on that level, but, you know, I knew where I was at.
Well, what was really cool, I think, which was maybe even the highlight of your career, correct me if I'm wrong, was the Dvorak finals your senior year. This was like, you can't write this stuff, man. Yes. I remember I was in 8th grade or something, and I got done with the tournament, and I couldn't wait to see the results of this match that Flow Wrestling was covering, and it was really cool. You bumped up from the year before to 132 pounds to face Jared Cortez, who is the number 1 132-pounder in the country, big 3A school, Glenbard North. You're coming from little old Dakota, Illinois, which is what? How many kids are even in that school?
250.
250?
Yeah.
And so you go to face this kid who has a better shot at beating you than anyone in the country. And you do it your senior year when you're 170-0, and this is soon before the state finals. So you're putting it all on the line against the guy who has the best opportunity at ruining it all, ruining the perfect record. What was your mindset going into that?
It was a chip on my shoulder. It was people are starting to talk about this record that I had, that I was unbeaten, and they are going to put an asterisk next to it, I felt like, because I was 1A, and it was a way to say, take that asterisk off, because I'm going to beat the best guy that you can put out there, and I think at the time he was probably the best guy in the state of Illinois, regardless of weight, as far as
pound for
accolades.
pound,
I mean,
no doubt.
He annihilated everybody for the most part in high school, and he did that when he was a kid too. So I couldn't. It was a perfect mix for me. It was a great opportunity. It was an opportunity to silence some people and really put an exclamation mark. But also, I can't say that it was. I didn't really, in the end, I don't feel like I had that much to lose, because everyone thought I was going to lose anyway. So.
And now you mean that. Everyone thought you were going to lose, even your family. You said one person didn't think that you would lose.
My mom probably, or maybe my grandpa. I think
you said your grandpa because he didn't know anything about wrestling or something.
My grandpa never thought I was going to lose. Like, I could wrestle whoever. If I wrestled Dan Gable, he'd say I was going to win. Didn't matter.
Statistically speaking, he was onto something. You had never lost. So
my grandpa's got crazy faith. Like, that guy just believes. He believes in his grandkids 100%.
And so before the match, though, I've heard that, your mindset-wise, you are no stranger to self-doubt. Like, you would doubt yourself a lot. You say, man, am I really cut out to face this guy? But you would remember how much work you would put in. That would kind of help ease your nerves. But I'm curious, what things did you say to yourself before big matches like this? And maybe kids that are listening to this can say similar things to themselves.
I think I tell this to my kids, I need to preach it a little more, is everybody has their own formula for success. So you're constantly trying to figure out what that formula is for you. Go back to a time you felt like you wrestled really well. What were you saying to yourself? What did you eat that morning? How did you warm up? What music did you listen to? Did you listen to music? Did you sleep the night before? Did you not sleep? So kind of identify some of those things, and then try, you get in that routine where you just try to implement those before every match. All the big matches that I won that I felt like I wrestled really well, it was pretty peaceful. Didn't really listen to music. I was mainly focused on my thoughts, that 10, 15 minutes before the match. Felt like I could get myself where I was at peace with winning or losing, but I had a little bit of a chip, and I had a little bit of probably anger. Just not to where because if you get so angry, you can't breathe. You turn red, and not that kind of anger, but just a little bit of that chip on my shoulder. These guys think they're better than me. Keeping that in the back of your head type deal.
You mentioned that if someone took you to the point where you kind of turned into an animal, that you could do it. You could go to those dark places. I'm just curious, have you ever been there? Has anyone ever pushed you to these places where it kind of scares you? Like, that was me? I acted like that?
In practice at UNI, that room is brutal. When I was, I'm sure it still is, but when I was there, it was, Joe Colon, who was third in the world, Dylan Peters, 2-time All-American, Max Thompson, All-American, 4-time state champ in Iowa. He's pretty much the me of Iowa. Like,
I wrestled that kid at a takedown tournament here once, and
he's extremely
I didn't know
mean.
who he was. He took me down twice before I could even do anything.
Yeah, he's one of my good buddies. But Joey Laser, All-American, Doug Schwab, Olympian, who would wrestle with us. So that was my partners. So when you put guys that caliber that don't like to lose with each other, like you get in fist fights where you do and say things and you got to go apologize the next day, like, hey, I shouldn't have punched you. I'm sorry, So I've gotten there a couple times in practice with those guys.
Like, you've thrown punches at Max Thompson?
Me and Max especially he wouldn't fight. He's frustrating because you want to fight him and he'll just keep wrestling you because he knows he's getting to you. So he would never just stand up and fight you. So I'd stand up and punch him, but then he'd just double egg me and start beating me up again. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Dang. What things would you say that you regretted saying?
I can't say them on.
Really? You can't bleep them out?
Man. Just, no, I don't really want to get into it, but.
I was just curious.
Things you regret saying later,
Of course.
Especially to your friends.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, real quick, I wanted to, we're talking about that Jared Cortez match. I just wanted to bring this up really quick, see what your thoughts were on this. This is like a minute into the first period, and I remember watching this. I mean, my nerves were going, especially at this moment. And again, the people watching this can hear it, but feel free to narrate.
Stay heavy. Let's go.
First period here.
See, I'm standing in the middle.
Boom. Takedown first period. Are you panicking?
I don't really ever remember panicking in that match. And that's part of why I won. That was bad technique by me. Staying on my knees. That's all I can really think about there.
And
I don't remember panicking. I just remember thinking I got to get an escape because I knew he was good on top.
Oh yeah, Cortez made his living on top.
Yeah. And I didn't get an escape. He rode me for a while.
Okay. But he didn't tilt you. He
Nope.
would tilt tons of guys.
Yeah, I ended up getting that. He rode me for most of the second period, then I ended up getting away, so it was 2-1 going into the third.
See that? Ooh, yeah, he got you flat here.
Yeah, I'd still to this day, I think that might be the only time I've ever had a chicken like that.
What made his top game so good?
Timing, I guess. I don't know. He chopped me, and before I knew my arms were on my back.
He looks like he has great pressure, too.
He was strong. He was real strong. Good pressure. You know,
let's see this here. You got some movement here. You're building your base. You're getting up to some feet. You're keeping that power ball position.
Yeah, on bottom, my philosophy, you got to stay sealed with your elbows and stay in the ball. I think kids, especially, they try to move too hard and get extended and give up their wrists and stuff. It's more important to stay sealed, stay in the ball.
It seems like keeping that core tight is crucial.
Yep. And that's why little kids struggle on bottom. They're just not strong enough.
Right. Like I get them like doing some sit-ups and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Gauging
a lot of rope climbs and push-ups and sit-ups.
All right. Going into the third period, is that right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Going into the third, and looks like we're shaking off some stuff here, and this is kind of where things get a little crazy.
Yeah, he went down. I was down 2-1. I kind of figured he'd get an escape and I'd have to take him down to tie it, because I was good on top, but I wasn't. You just don't assume you're going to turn a guy that caliber. He messed up again.
Dakota guys are notorious for being brutes on top, though.
Yeah, don't give me your wrist. See you guys' wrist.
Oh. Boom!
I love watching these videos, too, because just to look into the crowd.
Oh, yeah. You ever pause it and like watch it over and over?
Yeah, there's a couple still shots of other big matches I've had, and I like to look at the crowd more than like the match. You know?
Yeah. So what's going through your head after this? It looked like you kind of, if I saw correctly, you kind of gave a couple claps. Oh, maybe it didn't show it.
Yeah.
It looked like you were pumped.
I fired up. Because now I'm up by one, and when I get a lead, I'm hard to beat. So I knew I was in good shape.
Okay, so you're up by one here, third period.
I had a stall card in front of me, so he gets to his feet. I knew I had to turn the cut out.
I wish you and I could hear this. I think, what did you coaches think? We're like, crap, you cut him, now it's tied.
No, it was just like they could see the momentum of the match and like go get on. You could tell. I think he's panicking a little bit.
And right here, he's getting towards the end of the third period. Boom! Oh man. Your adrenaline had to be going at this point.
Bad finish.
Is any part when you're wrestling?
That's my mom, sitting down right there. You can't really see her. She's on her knees.
Oh yeah, okay.
I remember her in this match a couple times, glimpsing over and
Did you ever have in the middle of your matches where you would think about things not wrestling related, or you think about the situation and talk to yourself I'm wrestling Jared Cortez and I'm winning?
Not really like that. More like every now and then I'd hear my buddy's name get JJ Wolf to Matt 5, and then I'd think just kind of goofy questions. See, I tried to go back to that same shot, and he timed it. That's where he was good at reshots.
Damn. That's kind of a crazy. You don't see that too often where a guy just muscles and keeps a guy from sucking in the double.
I don't know.
Okay, this is when you're going into OT. Okay, here we go. If I remember correctly, at some point, did he slap your hand? Oh, I thought.
Yeah, he does.
There he is. It's kind of like, hey,
it's not my style.
Not your style. You're not a guy that.
I'm not gonna.
If you were in an MMA fight, you wouldn't touch gloves at the beginning.
Just the beginning. Begin the fight.
It's a fight till it's over.
Yeah. See, I'm on my knees here again. He could have got me. I got a lot of pressure on me.
Boom. That should have been 2.
Yeah, high school they give you some time to.
Look at this crowd. Seems like an important win. What's going through your head here? Freaking awesome. Oh, I gotta show this. Oh, that's it. No, that was awesome, man. Dang, yeah, I remember watching that, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. It was a win for the 1A people.
Yeah, I had a lot of people coming up, still to this day, like, man, I got a lot of, I don't want to say fans, but people remember that for 1A guys. It was a big day for 1A, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, on that note, we got to give a quick shout out to another local sponsor. They are wonderful. This is Ultra Physical Therapy in Lexington, Illinois. If you're an athlete or an old person who just needs to kind of move around a little better, see these people at Lexington's Ultra Physical Therapy. Newsflash, no one likes being injured or being in pain. And if you're suffering from joint or muscle pain or recovering from a sports injury or a recent surgery, Ultra Physical Therapy in downtown Lexington, Illinois is here to help. They are a locally owned physical therapy company that can treat everyone from the star cheerleader to the farmer getting ready for harvest to the professional office worker to the grandmother who wants to be able to play with her grandchildren. The therapists at Ultra Physical Therapy have a combined 25 years of experience and are trained in cutting-edge interventions, including dry needling, blood flow restriction training, cupping, and the use of massage and joint manipulation. They are also skilled in developing exercise and rehabilitation programs to get you back to doing all the things that you love to do. So free yourself from those aches and pains that are slowing you down and give them a call at 309-365-2500 to schedule an appointment or just to ask questions.
Come to Ultra Physical Therapy in Lexington and we'll keep you moving.
We are back. Sorry, we were just talking about Cortez's feelings after that. I didn't know if you knew if he was crushed or anything.
No, I mean, sure it wasn't easy for him, but I don't know. I didn't know him very well, and we didn't really go in the same circle, so I never don't want to prod his pride on him too much. It's he's a very deserving opponent, and I appreciate him. He made me better. So
insanely talented guy. I mean, things didn't work out for him at U of I for some reason. He went to Penn State.
Yeah.
Blue chip recruit, incredible wrestler, but I don't know exactly what happened. If he got
hurt.
injured.
He got hurt a lot. Yeah, he had shoulder problems, and then actually at Southern Scuffle our junior year, he was their starter for Penn State, and he broke his ankle there because we were maybe gonna wrestle again. It was looking like we were gonna wrestle, which would have been kind of cool for Illinois people, but didn't end up happening.
Yeah. Well, after Cortez, after that Dvorak match, you went on to, win your 4th state title. I don't need to, keep that a secret or anything. You beat Casey Brown from Coal City, and he's a guy I wrestled. He's a solid competitor, but again, you really blew through the competition that year. One thing I want to talk about before we talk about the victory itself is let's see, I have some notes here. My favorite story probably was that year was when you gave your regional medal to Austin Henry from Byron, if you remember that. He was a man who suffered from, a kid who suffered from a seizure disorder that affected his motor skills and his memory, and he's quoted as saying this about you when they asked about, this medal and this story. He said about Josh, "He is the greatest wrestler in history right now. I want to be like Josh." Have you heard that before, and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, Austin's dad and my dad knew each other, so after that happened, I kept talking to them guys a little bit, tried to keep a friendship, and unfortunately his dad passed away here 3 or 4 years ago, so tough situation for him, but yeah, I mean, I don't like to get into it too much. It's I had an opportunity to do something good, and I did it, and it is what it is. I'm just glad I did it, I guess.
You try to stay humble, it seems, right?
Yeah, I don't want to get praised too much. It makes me uncomfortable.
Is that kind of from your upbringing? Your parents teach you that, or biblical
I don't know.
principles, right?
Yeah, and I struggle. I have my own struggles. I'm a believer, and I try to walk the right walk. But just like everybody else, I have my own struggles and not always doing things the right way. And I don't want to put myself up there like an angel or anything, so.
Right. Well, I have a habit of asking people too personal questions, but what are you saying you struggle with, he said?
What everyone struggles with, it's a daily struggle to, not to lie, not to, to watch your language, to go, to be selfless, not to be selfish, and just to control your thoughts. Maybe you don't act on them, but if you dwell on thoughts long enough, now you're entertaining them, so, I tell my kids this because this is in wrestling and in life, and it's athletics or, just anything. You can't control what comes into your mind. You can't control it, but you can control how long you let it stay there and how long you dwell on it. And sometimes we let things dwell a little too long that we shouldn't,
I'm debating on saying something here. A little vulnerable, I guess. To me, I'll share things that are vulnerable. I'll ask people vulnerable questions without knowing they're vulnerable, like not knowing, hey, that's a big question you're asking. I remember when I was a kid, this is hilarious. I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. So I am Catholic. I'm a devout Catholic, and you know about confession in the Catholic Church and everything. I remember when I was a little kid, like right around puberty, I went into the confessional. I was like, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I mentioned, like, I keep thinking about, girls, and I keep having these thoughts and these images in my mind, and they keep coming in. I don't know what to do. And he's like, and because I'm like, I keep sinning, I'm so sorry. And he's like, you can't control the thoughts coming in. They're just going to keep coming in. But exactly what you said. It's almost like you talked to this guy, but I know you didn't because there's a vow of secrecy in the confessional. But it's like, he said, you can't keep them from coming in, but you can control what you do with them. You can either put them on the big screen and just, dwell on them and then just continue to let this filth, go throughout your whole body and into your soul, or you can kind of like close the door on it as soon as you can.
Yeah, and that's a verse in the Bible. I don't know where it's at, but it's take control of every thought, take captive every thought, make it line up with the Word of God. So that's where I get that from, and I live by that, trying to, because there's goofy thoughts that come in that you can't dwell on. You got to try to knock them out right away, but sometimes everybody does it, and it is what it is. Like sometimes you dwell on thoughts that you shouldn't dwell on, or you say things you shouldn't say, or
and Satan can have an input on what you're thinking. I don't know what so it seems like you agree with that. But he's the accuser, for Pete's sake. He can get you thinking, and I'm actually having an exorcist on the show soon, and I've listened to exorcists talk. I've talked to priests about this, and it says like one of the best tricks of Satan, and when you really got to kind of put your guard up, is when you start thinking that you're unworthy of forgiveness or unworthy of this and that. Like when you start thinking you're no good. It's
I had, people think you're crazy, but I feel like I've had revelation, like the Lord has spoken to me. Obviously, I believe in the Spirit. I believe that the Lord speaks to us, and I was thinking about this subject. This was a long time ago, and it's he almost not a vision, but like he gave me a metaphor. Like it's like a condemned house. When you condemn a house, you're saying you can't come live here. It's no one can live here. So if Satan can condemn you, right? He's not letting the Holy Spirit come live within you. He doesn't want anyone to come in. He wants to isolate you, and he's trying to condemn. He's trying to come in. He's trying to condemn your home, right? So, you can't condemn yourself. That's what he's trying to do. He puts these thoughts like, why do I think like this? Why do I do this? Why I can't get out of... That's him. Like you said, he's the accuser. Yeah. Don't condemn yourself. Just keep fighting, man. Get in your word.
Yes. No, and fighting's the right word. We're talking about how life is a wrestling match. Like, look, you have your mind. You're in control of this, but there's inputs coming in. You're not going to have control of it without a fight. And so Satan comes in, you're going to have to wrestle with those thoughts.
Yeah.
You got to push back. You got to shove him out of bounds.
Yeah.
It's really weird when metaphors line up with reality and they become more than metaphors.
Right. Well, that's how Jesus spoke a lot of the time, was in metaphors and parables and things. And
it's like the things he said are meta true.
Yeah.
It's more true. And that's why it's just crazy, man. This isn't a religious episode, but it's turning into one. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, we always joke around when something like that happens. It's crazy, or we're like, oh, what a coincidence, like kind of sarcastic.
Exactly.
Like, it's not a coincidence. It's part of the grand scheme, but
No, and that's why I'm a believer myself. It's not like I wanted to either, because life in a lot of ways becomes significantly more difficult when you accept the reality that God is real, that Christ was God, Christ was God's son, and that the things he said were immensely valuable. In fact, more than immensely valuable. They were the truth. Mm-hmm. And it's like, either they guessed and they got it all right 2,000 years ago, and so right that we're still like revealing this stuff and you're like, wow, this is so true. Yeah. Or he was who he said he was,
Yeah, well, it almost, to a certain extent, it takes as much, if not more, faith to not believe in God.
Oh, yeah.
Like some of these scientific theories and stuff, like the Big Bang and stuff. I've tried to research because I'm like, God. And I've asked people that believe in it. And it's like, dude, that takes a lot of faith to believe that. Like, probably more than creation and God created us, just as much.
Well, time out. You know who came up with the Big Bang Theory? It was Father Georges Lemaitre alongside Edwin Hubble. He was a Vatican priest. So he's a Catholic priest who came up with it. And his thing was, and he said this to the Pope, like, well, the Big Bang, that kind of works perfectly with God's creation. He said, let there be light,
Yeah.
And then the Pope was like, I don't know about that, but the Big Bang is one thing I'm like, it could coexist perfectly.
Yeah. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying some of these things, how can you laugh at my faith when some of the things you believe in?
There's a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, and it paints perfectly. Some genius guy wrote it, and he talks about the mathematics behind the odds of us being the kind of life forms that we are on this planet in the craziness of space and the cosmos. The odds of this happening it's actually impossible. Yeah. He painted it. He's like, if you were shot out of a cannon into the cosmos in any direction of all the directions for any amount of time, and you just so happen to land on one atom, the one atom that was like the chosen atom, you just landed on that by chance in 100 years, the odds of that happening are better than life being as we know it on this planet. And that's ludicrous.
What's the Earth, the tilt of the Earth, like 26.5 degrees or something?
I don't know.
23.5, it's somewhere in there, I think. But if that's half degree one way or the other, we don't survive. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Things like that.
Dang.
If we're this much closer to the sun, we get burned up. If we're this much farther away, it just come on, man.
Yeah. And as
it takes a lot of faith to believe in strictly science.
Oh, right. And science fails to acknowledge an entire aspect of reality, perhaps the biggest aspect of reality, which could be metaphysical. Like, science studies the natural world, the physical natural world. That's it. Well, of course, you're not going to explain something that's metaphysical beyond physical with pure science.
Yeah. Well, it takes both. I believe it's not like all science is wrong. Man, science is from God.
It's a study of his creation.
It's a study of how he did things.
Right. Yeah. And, it's just so strange to me. I'm not even going to say anything. We're getting off. We're going on a tangent here. We're talking about your darn wrestling career.
I like tangents. That's all right.
Yeah, same here. But, hey, I want to ask about, we're talking about Satan being the accuser and whatnot, and going into your fourth state title. I remember reading something in Sports Illustrated. I couldn't find it in my research again, but in Faces in the Crowd, in Sports Illustrated, they talked to you, and you said something along the lines of, people don't realize how stressful it was leading up to this fourth state title, even after your victory over Jared Cortez. What was the state tournament like for you that senior year?
Not very enjoyable till it was over. I remember being down in the tunnel before my finals match crying, just like so much pressure and thinking I'm going to get caught and pinned. I've heard stories of guys that were on track to do similar things and just goofy things happen and they get caught and pinned.
Like Dan Gable.
And I had visions of myself getting pinned. So it was like, I knew it was like, had to fight that before the match even started, So that was a lot of pressure. But I'll say this, it wasn't even comparable to the pressure I felt my senior year at UNI trying to All-American at the national tournament, trying to win matches there. That was a lot more pressure, I felt like.
Right. We haven't even gotten to UNI yet. We will soon. But so you go on to wrestle Casey Brown. It's a solid victory. It was a one-sided victory. What did you feel then after you finally got the job done? The pressure was off. Was it relief or was it
Yeah, it was just 100% relief. Again, I knew I was going to do it. I expected to do it, but to actually be done with it was not much joy. Just like, get me out of here. I'm done,
Right. It's not an uncommon thing to hear among guys that do things similar to what you're doing, but I pulled up this video. I want to get your thoughts on it. Again, here's the moment, where the seconds are winding down here. If you want to give us a commentary on this.
Your winner at 130 pounds is now 4-time state champion from Dakota, Josh Alber.
How you point up after these victories. You always do this. You always point to God. And you have a tattoo, don't you? Like somewhere on your arm.
Yeah, it's the Christian, the fish.
Can you show it?
Good.
Oops. There it is. So what's it say? Glory to God.
Yep.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
How important was your faith? Has your faith been throughout your entire wrestling career?
I just believe in God's plan. I think whether it was wrestling or whatever, I just felt like he had me where he wanted me to be, whether it was, wrestling at Dakota or wherever I was training or wrestling at UNI, I was like, this is the Lord's guiding my steps and this is where he wants me. So I got to just do my best with where I'm at, so whether I think if I was 6 feet tall and I played basketball, I would have had the same attitude as like, this is where God wants me to be and doing this and, try to do it the right way.
You ever lose your faith or anything? You ever go into a dark place? I mean, your head's on your shoulders in a great way. Your parents raised you very well, but just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I still battle with it. You get pulled away by things in the world. You get so focused on, sometimes wrestling was bad because I get so focused on the wrestling that everything else in life was like, I don't care. I don't care about anything. I just want to win. And, you see that a lot and then we're all susceptible to it with money in the business world. Like, you can chase too hard and now you get pulled away from what's meaningful and you have to pay a price for that. But then you feel that pull coming back to get back on the narrow road. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm constantly being pulled. Oh, not away where I don't have unbelief, but where I put him in the back seat. Like, leave a voicemail. I can't answer the call right now. I'm over here working for my own benefits. You know what I'm saying?
Other things become the central point of your life.
Right. Priorities get out of whack, I guess.
How do you get God back in the center? Is it praying in the morning? Is it? Yeah,
praying. Fellowship with people that are close to me, and just trying to stay in the Word, trying to pray, trying to talk about Him more, and trying to get your thoughts more equated around Him than other things.
Now, okay, so you win your fourth state title. You're a big recruit, but you're kind of slighted in the college recruiting process. I mean, Minnesota's looking at you. Some other D1 schools are looking at you. But the big ones, I mean, look, you're undefeated four-time state champ, beat the number one guy at 132 pounds in the nation, but still you're kind of getting slighted. Mm-hmm. What about UNI? What about Doug Schwab seemed attractive to you? What resonated with you that made you ultimately go to the University of Northern Iowa?
Some of the other schools I was looking at had really good teams and guys around my weight. And it was like, we can't guarantee that. And they couldn't, but they're like, yeah, we're bringing all these guys in and, you're part of this. But Doug was like, and they wanted me to commit because they're like, well, we got to find our guy. We got to get the money allocated and everything else. And I remember Doug and Mark Schwab, his brother, when they came to my house, they're like, you're our guy. We're not worried. We're not worried about this guy over here. We're not worried about this guy. We're not worried if he did better than you at this tournament. They're like, we're focused on you and we're putting our chips with you. And when they said that, I was like, whoever's going to believe in you like that, has a lot of sway. So when he's like, you're our guy, I was like, sure am. Let's do it.
It was the loyalty then.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the best word to describe Doug and the Schwab family. They're loyal to you till the death. And in D1 wrestling, where his job depends on winning and him getting paid and providing for his family, a lot of it is he has to win. So for him to sometimes risk not winning to stick with a guy a little longer and give him a little bit more of a chance, and he does that. And a lot of college coaches, they don't give you as many chances as Doug will give you to produce, so he's loyal to you till the end.
And what's his coaching style like then? He's a nice guy, he cares about you, he's loyal, but when it comes to wrestling, what kind of things is he telling you? How does he push you?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people in this generation, he's like, like guys my age or a little older, Doug Schwab is like their favorite wrestler because when he is like Iowa, like when they were growing up watching the Iowa Hawkeyes, like Doug Schwab is Iowa. He's like in your face, intense, probably crossing the line a little bit sometimes, like that Iowa style, that Gable style, that's Doug embodied. But then he also has this side where, hey, he can be soft with you too, where when you need somebody to lift you up, he'll lift you up. He's not always just this hard ass, so he's just a really good dichotomy of Iowa style, that intense, brutal style, and then also understanding, it is just a wrestling match. It is just a game at the end of the day,
Strange how he can balance that and have both ends of the spectrum in this one person. And you talk about he is Iowa. I swear, I used to think that him and like the Branzas were cousins at least.
Oh yeah,
like they look alike. They're the same.
That's probably. I think they still get along, but they can't agree. Like you and I in Iowa don't wrestle because when they're in agreements to try to get their schedules and stuff, it's like they're just too stubborn. They're like, both of them, they're like, you're going to come here this date. And they're like, no, you're going to come here this date. And they're like, fine, we just won't do it then,
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's just how they can't get it together. We always wanted to, I was like, I want to wrestle at Carver Hawkeye. I don't care if we wrestle there. But they would give us a date and we already had something else scheduled. And they're like, no, well, that's all you get.
He doesn't like Iowa, does he? I've heard him refuse to say the name Iowa in a press conference. He's
you got to be like that when you're coach. You can't have loyalties at your old school. You're Cedar Falls, Iowa, UNI, that's his home, and he's a Panther through and through. So when I don't know how he personally feels about Iowa, but yeah, I never saw Hawkeye stuff in his house. Right. And I went over for family meals and stuff. You didn't see much Hawkeye stuff laying around. You didn't see his old warm-ups or anything. He's UNI now, and that's his home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see that with some of these guys. They start to I know Metcalf and St. John are at Iowa State, and they're kind of like disrespectful towards Iowa now.
Yeah.
And it's, you got to be, because they are a school that gets a lot of praise. So it's like you don't want people for 1 second thinking that you're still loyal to them.
Yeah, and when you're at UNI or Iowa State, you're competing against those guys for recruits and stuff. So you can't have 1 foot here and 1 foot. It's like, hey, we're going to beat Iowa, That's how you got to look at it, and that's how you got to preach it to the guys you're recruiting. So, and, I don't think Iowa makes it easy when you do, on Metcalf or St. John or Doug. When they left, I don't think they pat him on the back and said best wishes. I think they make it like
clear that you're the enemy.
Yeah, they put your stuff in a trash bag and put it on the side of the street, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, tell me about Doug Schwab. What's maybe one thing that one mental trick or tip that he instilled in you or taught you that really has stuck with you, that you think's really valuable? Because his brother's huge on mindset, I know, and I'm sure Doug is as well.
It's so hard to pinpoint one thing. Most of the things I say are in some way influenced by him. My wrestling philosophy a lot is influenced by him, and just man, it's tough. I know one thing when I talk to my guys about is he used to say tip of the sword. So he's looking for somebody that's not afraid to be that first guy in. So a sword has that tip that's what penetrates through defense. So when somebody penetrates, when you get that, it's the tip is the smallest part of the sword, and then it gets wider. When somebody pokes through, now the 4 or 5 guys behind him are like, we can, it makes it possible for everybody else. So you're always looking for that guy that's got the courage and the bravery and is going to put the work in to poke through and do something that maybe no one thought they could do, and then everybody else follows. And that's why you'll see a school that hasn't had any success, and then they get a guy that wins state, and then the next year 2 state champions. The next, and then it's like, oh, it's normal now.
Look at Dakota. I mean, you, J.J. Wolf, Carver James, maybe I'm forgetting one other person, but all of a sudden you have 3 Division I wrestlers in a school of how many kids again? One more time?
250.
250.
Yeah.
That's unreal to have 3 Division I wrestlers come out of that room.
Yeah.
And then after that, look at all these kids now. The Blakely brothers, I think, right?
Yeah, those are my
Phoenix
nephews.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I interviewed these. I interviewed all the 1A state champs this year at the state tournament. And by the way, there's one kid, Tyson Waddle, who is an undefeated state champ at 106 pounds. We'll see. He might be the next
He's
one.
tough, man. I like watching him. He's good.
Yeah.
And I think he's the first state champ from his high school ever.
Oh my, that's right.
In
that's
wrestling.
right.
In wrestling.
Right.
I think there's only been like 3 state champs ever. Like there's like a track guy from the 50s or something. But yeah, there's a tip of the sword right there. We'll see if some guys follow him,
That's freaking right. He's tip of the sword. Tyson, if you're watching this, you're tip of the sword.
That's right.
So you said tip of the sword is a good thing that he taught you as far as like, mental philosophies. Well, that's not really. Well, it sort of is. It's just kind of a metaphor for life. Someone's got to be the tip of the sword. Did he teach you? I hate to dwell on this too much, but I want to learn some mindset tricks from one of the greats. Is there any? Did he teach you to value this or that a little more, to push harder? Did he motivate you in a new kind of way?
It was focus on. For me especially, he knew each guy individually what they needed, but a lot of just focus on your effort, focus on turning things into fights and doing the hard things right. Don't try to focus all on the win, but just focus on, doing the things that we work on, do those things 100% right, and the winning's going to kind of take care of itself a little bit. So that was a big push, and then we just worked really hard. I mean, he's no days off. I mean, to this day, he's like, I want to say probably 42, 43 years old. He's still wrestling D1 guys, and he's probably 6% body fat because he works out every day, 3 times a day. So when you got a leader like that, you got to try to keep up with him, which you never will. Some guys maybe, but man, so it's just extremely hard work, not giving yourself time to feel sorry for yourself or just get back to work and keep moving forward.
It's crazy. Sometimes you wrestle these guys that are in their 40s, and you think that you'd be able to get the best of them, but it's really strange. You hear about Terry Brands. He took it to Ramos when Ramos was a sophomore. It's like, how can you do that? They're just, low body fat. They feel like they're made of rock.
Yeah, he's, he gave me some beatings for sure. I remember like when you got a takedown, and it's funny, like he's probably the most competitive person I've ever been around. So we'd play dodgeball at the beginning of practice. Like, if you got him out, he's pissed. He's swearing, or like you beat him in a silly game, he's pissed. Or when he'd wrestle with us, sometimes coaches are like coaching you as they're wrestling. You're like, oh, run the corner. He's just trying to beat your ass, And if you got a takedown on him, he'd let you know about it. So you felt when you took him down, you knew you earned it. And I remember that's probably some of the best takedowns I got in my life, for taking him down, because how tough he was, and I knew I earned him.
So he took you down plenty of times.
Oh, I didn't start. I don't even want to say I started beat him. I don't think I ever really would have beat him. But being able to really go maybe 60-40 with him till I was a junior in college. And I don't even know if I was really going 60-40. He might have been giving me some without knowing it. But yeah, he's unreal.
Right. And you were in good company in that room. You got Max Thompson. You got Peters, who was a 125-pounder. That dude was tough. I heard you say on that podcast that he pinned you plenty of times. You had an unreal cow catcher at the Division I level. Yeah. Joe Colon, that guy's a stud too. So you were in great company, and I kind of want to talk about your career there. So I thought I had it in my notes. I don't. But you had a solid freshman year, 4-time Nationals qualifier. Freshman year, I think you had a win at the national tournament. Sophomore year, you had a really good year. I think you were 3-2. Junior year, something happened. I kind of forget what happened there.
Yeah, my junior year, I was the 9 seed. Had a good year. I lost to Dean Heil at Big 12, who's a 2-time national champ for Oklahoma State. I took him right to the wire, so I got 3rd at Big 12. I was sitting in a good spot, 9 seed. Had a kid from Eastern Michigan.
Oh, that's right.
And he'd been in my brackets at a lot of he'd been around for a long time, and I never gave him an ounce of respect because I outplaced him everywhere. I beat guys that beat him. I didn't even think about him, And you'd think at the Division I level at the NCAA tournament, you'd have the self-awareness to not overlook guys.
Right.
But it was a mix of I went into that I was worried about the next round. I was like, I'm going to have Nick Lee second round. He's the 8 seed. I had a really good match with him that year at Southern Scuffle. And I was like, man, I'm in a good position to make a deep run in the tournament here because I get past this first one. Me and Nick are going to get into a scrap. I could beat him there, and now I'm in the quarters against Meredith, who I beat 3 times in high school.
Really? You beat Bryce Meredith 3 times?
Yeah, I never wrestled him in college, but I beat him in high school 2 or 3 times. And so I was like, man, I could be in the semis. I'm prognosticating the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get past that first match. And
right.
And it was a mix too. He definitely had the best tournament of his life. He ended up All-American. He beat, and Nick Lee got upset first round as well. So we both got upset that first round, and now it's me and Nick Lee where
Nick got pinned.
He got pinned. So it's me and him in the first round wrestle back.
Mm-hmm.
So I overlooked that guy. Put me in a world of hurt, and I just couldn't bounce back mentally. Not that to beat Nick Lee, you have to be in the right mindset, and even then, they're gonna have a hard time. He's a 2-time national champ, but I just couldn't even get a bad job by me because you need to be able to get back up in the wrestlebacks. But I didn't have myself mentally ready in that wrestleback. When I came back, I was just too devastated by what happened in that first round.
How'd that match go with Nick Lee in the wrestlebacks?
He just kind of controlled it. I think it was 8-5 or 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
Just not anything to remember.
Right.
Handled me.
Well, so going into your senior year, you said the pressure, which was enough to make you cry before the finals your senior year in high school,
Mm-hmm.
was nothing compared to the pressure going into your senior year at UNI. And I remember, just a brief little history here, I remember seeing you in preparation for the upcoming season, your senior year, on Instagram. You climbed a rope enough times to it was equivalent to you climbing up Mount Everest.
Yeah, and that's a Doug thing. Doug Schwab kind of invented that challenge, but a lot of the UNI guys do that. It's kind of a rite of passage.
I see.
Yeah.
So you were really training. I heard you say that you ran at least a mile every single day for like 80 days straight, but it ended up being, more like 4 miles on most days.
Yeah.
So you were
I just
committed.
got in a rhythm in my training where I was eating right, really, my body was really lean. I was starting to run like 12 miles at a time, 13 miles at a time.
That's half marathons.
Yeah,
man.
and not really, almost every other day I'd run that far. I'd run it every day, but
you were running 13 miles multiple times a week at one time?
I was hungry. Yeah,
Dude.
I'd say over 10 miles, probably 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah,
that's unreal. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
And I hate running. I actually kind of like it now, but before that, I thought I hated running.
What did you eat? Just before we move on, I'm very curious.
Chicken and broccoli.
That's it? No rice?
A little bit of rice. When you run that much, you can actually eat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I ate a lot, but just really good food. Chicken, rice, broccoli, spinach, salmon. I like salmon. A lot of eggs.
Just this
protein and greens.
Clean.
Yeah.
Dang.
No,
Did you
I
ever
didn't drink
cheat?
any calories.
Okay.
Except for some beers here and there when I really needed to relax. But on the weekend, drink a couple beer. But no, I very dedicated on my diet and my workouts that summer especially.
What kind of beer did you drink?
Cold.
Just
beer.
anything?
Yeah.
Probably domestics and
Yeah,
stuff.
domestics. I'm not an IPA guy. I'm not fancy.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, I have a wonderful craft beer sponsor. I offered you some beer, I think, but we're just drinking coffee.
Yeah, it's a little early when I got here, so.
Right. Well, okay, so at this time, one more question leading up into this build-up of the season. Were you married at this time?
Yeah, I got married, I want to say, my sophomore year
In
of
college? Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Dang, man.
Yep.
What was that like?
Well, I've been with my wife since when we first started, we were on and off, but.
Oh, yeah,
since
like any good high school relationship?
Yeah, like junior high kids, since 7th grade. So, I'd been with her for, you're probably 12 or 13. And we got married when we were 20, 21. So I'd been with her for 7 or 8 years. So
Wow.
we were young, but most of my friends in college aren't married, but it was not a big thing to me. So.
Well, so anyway, I assume you guys were living together, and she must have really been with you all the way.
Yeah, well, she loved it when she's always like, you need to get me back doing that, because when we were living like that, she was working out too a lot, just because I was always working out, and she had to eat what I ate pretty much. So, yeah, she liked it.
Well, you look like you're still in fighting shape, honestly.
Not even close to what I was.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you weighing now?
I'm probably about 54, 55, which I was like 48, 49 then, but I was a lot more muscle. I've lost a lot of the muscle I gained then, because I was running and wrestling and lifting all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty strong.
Okay, so back to the lead up to the season, your senior year. You're training like a freaking madman. It's incredible. What's going through your head? How you enter the season? What's this all like?
Just bitter. I was bitter that whole summer. Like, coming into college, I was like, I'll definitely be a 4-time All-American. I didn't understand. I'm like the first one in my family, first one from Dakota, first one from the area to ever go D1 wrestling. So I didn't even really know I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how hard it was, So when I was going into Division I, I was like, I'll be a 4-time All-American, like just bare minimum, and then it's a lot harder than you think, and just things didn't go my way a little bit, and now I'm a senior and I haven't been an All-American once. So I got this bitterness driving me, and this is your last chance. You better make sure you give yourself every opportunity you can give yourself to make sure you get it done,
All right, so you start the season, and it's looking pretty good right out the gate, right?
Yeah, I had a decent start to the season. I lost at the first opening we went to. I got caught. I didn't really put too much in. I got caught by the Wisconsin kid who's now my friend, Tristan Moran. Good dude, but he pinned me. But I kind of didn't. It didn't bother me, because I was like, I just caught me in a position that was kind of a fluke, I was probably like 15-4 in the first half of the season, and then that second half, and I was a little tight in the first half. That second half is when I started opening up, and I was like, all right, we gotta go to work here. And I got in a rhythm with my wrestling, and my mindset was right, and that's when I went on a really good streak there and beat those guys we talked about earlier. But I lost to Yanni. He came back. He was hurt. He came back in December, and I had him in a duel, and he beat me up. And I remember just like, man, I put all this work in, and this guy beat me up.
Yanni's a little different though, man.
Oh, he's way different. Yeah.
Like he's
the best guy I've ever wrestled.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Dang, I was gonna ask you that question.
Yeah, he's a freak. Like he's just a mix of everything. He's just very good. But that kind of kick-started me again, losing to him like I lost. Like, we got to get it together. And then after I lost to him, I went like, the whole second semester I didn't lose again till till Big 12s.
What's Doug Schwab saying to you when you're on this tear and you're just like possessed?
They're just, my Randy Pugh is one of my main coaches there, who I did like most of my individuals with. He was a big part of it, getting my mindset right. Like he's a genius. But they're just like, they're like feeding me, like, look at these guys you're beating. Look at what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Look how all that training you did. Look at you now. Like these guys can't beat you. You're too tough. Just constantly pumping you up, saying things like that.
Your senior year, you won the Midlands, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. You had to feel pretty
That was like a
good.
childhood dream for me, because growing up, I always went to the Midlands. I only live an hour, 15 from where they host it. So, and I never saw myself winning that as a kid. I didn't understand I'd even be there. So to win that was like a dream come true.
Well, another story. Look, man, you're a good guy. You've done some really cool things, not just wrestling-wise, not skill-wise, but person-wise. And I asked about the Midlands because at the Midlands, you did something that I thought was really cool. It was shortly after Eli Stickley's tragic death. He was a Wisconsin, good wrestler. Apparently you knew him, but he died tragically in a car accident. And here, I'll just let this video do the talking real quick, but this is from Big Ten Network. It was a mini documentary they made, and here in the first few seconds, they kind of talk about you. So, again, Eli Stickley was a Wisconsin wrestler. He died tragically in a car accident. He was the brother-in-law of Alex Marinelli, and here we go.
The first season without him, it was really tough, but there were great people that honored him. The wrestling community is so big, but it's also so small. I mean, there's just a small world with the wrestling community, and it's amazing how many people Eli reached.
We've received so many things from people. Obviously, we've received many cards and notes of encouragement, and just means so much to us. There's a headgear from Josh Alber, who dedicated the Midlands tournament last December in Eli's name, and he gave this to us. And it says, worn in memory of Eli Stickley, a warrior on the mat, a brother in Christ. It's very special to us.
All right, well, everyone heard that but us. It was really a touching thing. You know what you wrote on the inside of that headgear, I bet.
Yeah, and Todd Stickley, Eli's dad, and his mom, they're like, man, they're the salt of the earth. They're just really good people. And again, it was just something little I could do to honor him, and did it. So.
Well, it just goes to show that little things that we do out of the kindness of our heart can actually mean the freaking world to
someone.
And
every now and then Todd still texts me and stuff, and I get to talk to him, and I'm glad I got a relationship with those guys now because, like I said, they're just really good people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about your career. Your senior year, when it winded down, you qualified for the NCAA tournament, and just tell me about that.
Yeah, came into NCAAs. I was probably 31-5, around there. Seeded me 4th. And I had the Army kid first round, who I knew his name from high school, and he was tough. And NCAA is like, you have tough first round matches. Even guys that aren't known are tough. Like the 31 seed or whatever is a tough kid. You know what I'm saying? And I learned that the year before. So I was really nervous for that first round match because I was like, the same thing's going to happen to me that happened last year. I'm going to get upset first round, and I'm going to look like an idiot, And so I just was so nervous that I and this isn't an excuse, this is my own fault, but I was so nervous that I gave myself like migraines, just physically sick from being so nervous because I wanted it so bad, and I knew to me it was like life and death, and I won the match, but it took a lot out of me physically. And I remember going back to the hotel after that, because that's in the morning, then you have a night round match. I remember going back to the hotel and trying to relax, and I couldn't relax the whole day. And then you have the awareness to know, hey, I'm not going to win if I am in this match. So now you're it's compounded. It's
double whammy.
Yeah, you're God, I got to try to slow myself down. He's if I keep doing this, I'm not going to win. It's
a downward spiral.
It is, and it just, I got myself mentally ready for that second match, but physically I did not feel good. I just, like I said, I was just dizzy, migraine. I knew I physically wasn't right, and I just felt sluggish, and I got beat that second round, got upset, because I was the 4 seed. If I would have won that, I would have had Ironman in the quarters. And I beat him probably a month earlier. One of the bigger wins I ever had, but I felt really confident against Ironman just because our styles are opposite, and I'm real basic and solid, and I think he kind of struggles with guys like that. And I always kind of, even though he beat me twice, but I always gave him problems. And then that third time I beat him. So I wanted that match with Ironman in the quarters, but I just, I got myself so worked up that first round and physically just wasn't there, and end up losing that second round, and then now your dreams are shattered a little bit. I knew the position I was in the wrestlebacks, and you don't want to be in the wrestlebacks at NCAAs. You got good guys fighting for All-American honors, and fell short.
Right. And this still hurts to talk about, I assume.
It hurts a lot less now. Fresh out of college, I was I'd say depressed. I felt like my whole college career I looked at it as a failure, but now a little more awareness and birth my son and running a business and realizing there's a lot more to life than wrestling I can laugh about it a little bit now. I'll still be driving down the road and think about sometimes and be slamming the steering wheel, but
yeah,
it's
you remember what you could have done in a match and it would have gone different type of thing.
Yeah, and just losing to guys I had no business losing to because of mentally I wasn't where I should have been, and things like that. And
well, looking
worked
back
out.
now, like, well, first of all, what was it like then to end the season that way? You know, to go back home after you graduated from what'd you major in, by the way? What'd you get a degree in, and then
Wrestling.
what-
That's what I always say. I was there to wrestle. I got a degree in exercise science, but I knew I was going to probably start my own business and work outside or do something. I wasn't going to use that. That was just keeping me eligible. So looking back now, that was foolish. I should have got a business degree or something. But, man, it was devastating. I had to stay out there 2 or 3 months after season and finish school, and it was just not a happy time for me, just depressed, and felt like I went through all this trouble of wrestling my whole life, and I always pictured myself ending on top, and I didn't. And, you know, battling thoughts like that, and it was hard. It was really hard. But you got to have a perspective shift and think, and you realize, hey, there's people dealing with like actual real life adversity, and you didn't win in a game, and you're being a crybaby about it. So, you know, you need to cowboy up a little bit.
Right. It's hard to do, though, man. It's so weird. It's like part of your body and your brain is ingrained to believe that this is the most important thing, and it's extremely serious. So you can say these things to yourself, like literally speak words to yourself in your head, maybe even say them out loud, but your body's still like, that was important. You know?
Oh, yeah. There's still times where I let myself get in that rabbit hole of like the what, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but like I said, it's God's plan, man. He's got me where he wants me, and it made me better, 100%.
Well, now you're a coach. You suffering through that, you gained untold wisdom that you can apply now to your athletes at Alber Athletics and at Dakota. What if you could go back? If you could disguise yourself as a coach, go back in time, talk to yourself during that time, what would you have told yourself that you think you would have needed to hear?
That's tough. Just if I could have viewed it a little less like life and death, would have been better for me. You know, I just, like I said, I squeezed the bat too tight, and I was protecting and not viewing it as like going and taking. But I'll say I believe it's made me a lot better coach because, you know, I understand stress and pressure from wrestling, and I can see it on guys. You know, I can see it in their eyes because that's, you know, you can tell in a guy's eyes. And, you know, hopefully I can say something to him that helps him understand, helps him relax, and, you know, can wrestle well.
Right. Okay, well, we're about to wind this thing down. We got one more commercial here, and then I got a few questions to ask you. But here is a quick word from Dave's Supermarket in Fairbury, Illinois, a beloved grocery store. Everyone loves this place. Go check them out. Since 1950, Dave's Supermarket in Fairbury has been wowing customers throughout central Illinois with their unmatched customer service, delectable deli market, beloved grocery carryout service, and many other fortes, which is why they've earned hundreds of 5-star reviews online. Dave's 3rd Street Deli has plenty of seating and is a destination place to meet your family and friends for good food, fun, and fellowship. Not only is their home-style fried chicken here the best around, but you can also enjoy free coffee and 50-cent ice cream every single day. And be sure to check out their Old World Bakery while you're here, where freshly baked goods are prepared every morning. You'll find hundreds of unique and signature items here at Dave's that you won't find anywhere else, like their famous potato salad, ham loaf, and canned meats, just to name a few. Dave's Supermarket is open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and offers online shopping and curbside services. Come experience this revered location that puts the super in supermarket when you shop at Dave's in Fairbury, Illinois, wowing the customer for over 70 years. All right, that was Dave's Supermarket in Fairbury, Illinois. Amazing place. Everyone loves Dave's. Josh, you've probably never been there because...
Looked good, though, in that commercial. Yeah. Wish I had more time. I'd stop by there.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe your business will take you that way.
I hope so.
But, okay, I want to ask you a little bit about, you know, after college, you entered a new world of fatherhood. You're a husband and a father, like I said. How did that change your outlook on life? You know, you were formerly a dedicated athlete, but now... priorities have totally switched.
Yeah. My coach at UNI, Randy Pugh, used to, like, there toward the end when he knew I was struggling with getting over how my career ended, it's like, man, when you have kids and you're doing your own thing, you're not even going to, most days you'll never even think about this, and it'll be in your rearview mirror. And I didn't understand that, but now I do. Like, man, a lot of things really shrink in value to me when in comparison to my son, and just, man, I love to spend time with him and being his dad, and yeah, he's a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Gray, what's his name again?
Gray Dean Alber.
Yep. Meant for that's going to be on the cover of some country music albums.
I'm hoping he doesn't have to wrestle or work or anything. He can just be a country star. And Gray Dean, man.
Heck yeah. Great name.
Yeah.
But so you also, so you founded the Alber and Son Earthworks, which is the excavation company, which is doing really well. It's keeping you busy. It's gonna blow up, I'm sure. But you also have you were gonna say something?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you also have Alber Athletics, where you're training, serious young high school age and 8th grade and under kids to become champions. You already have national champions, a girl national champion, a girl state champ, both maybe, and some male high school state champions in that group already. It's only 2 years old. What's your vision with Alber Athletics?
Yeah, obviously a lot of those kids came to me with really good foundations, and I've built on them, so I can't take credit for them, and they do it themselves. I just provide the opportunity. But, my vision for Alber Athletics is just to give kids opportunities to advance themselves to where they want to get. So if they want to be a Division I wrestler, hopefully I can get them to that level, and they'll have the opportunity, and hopefully they get some scholarship money and can go do that. Or if they just want to be high school state champions, hopefully I get them there. Or, so there's some guys in our room that aren't that talented, and maybe just getting to sectionals would be the thing, a life changer for them, and that's where I'm trying to get them. So
right, and you're also teaching them how to be functional members of society. It's not just teach them to wrestle and personality and character goes out the window like some club kids do. You're teaching them how to be good young men and women.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's easy to just get focused on the wrestling, but the best thing I can do is try to live my life in a correct manner, and they're going to just try to, follow me and imitate me a little bit in the right things.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I know you're a busy guy. You got to get going here in just a second. You got some club practice you got to get to at 5. Yep. You got to make the drive all the way back up to Dakota. I have a few more questions. I've appreciated your time. Your freaking story inspires me a lot, but I have a few rapid-fire questions for you just to wind down here.
Alrighty.
All right. First thing here. I've always been curious. Nate Joza was a well-known kid in high school. He was a state finalist. He kicked my butt. Actually, I never wrestled him, but he would have kicked my butt. I heard it. He told me that he pinned you in the offseason one year. Is that true?
Don't recall ever losing to him.
Oh, really?
Losing to him, no.
Oh, dang. It was a lie then.
I'm not saying it's a lie. He could have beat me. I don't remember losing.
You would have remembered getting cradled and pinned by a non-ranked guy, though.
Probably, yeah. I don't. Definitely not in high school. Maybe when I was a kid.
Nate Joza, you dog. Okay. What's your favorite sport to watch besides wrestling?
Probably football.
Have you ever considered MMA? Competing, in it.
Kind of, but my mom made me promise when I was young that I wouldn't go into fighting, and I kind of stuck with that. I love MMA. That's actually, I like MMA more than football.
Okay.
But, I didn't even think of that. But, yeah, I thought about it, but like I said, my mom and my wife would not be happy about that.
Right, understood. When you have a family, it's a hard thing to go sign
and
up
I'd have
for.
to cut weight again, and I'm not going back to that.
Who's the most talented wrestler in the IHSA right now?
It's hard for me to say. I got club kids that I think are really good. I might have some bias. I think my nephew Phoenix Blakely is really talented. Markel Baker's one of my guys. He's going Division I. He's really talented. Outside of my club, I really like Webster from Washington and Davino from St. Charles East. I think those two they're going to be national champs, I think, someday.
Potentially
Division
an
I.
awkward question here. Who do you think the best IHSA wrestler of all time is?
Man. Probably Joe Williams.
Joe Williams, really?
Joe Williams or TJ Williams. Those guys are freaks.
Joe Williams was 159-1.
I got to put my good friend growing up, Bryce Brill, who most people forgot about now.
Mount Carmel stud.
Yeah,
he had a great career at Northwestern, then he had to quit for some reason.
Well, he didn't even really get started. He had a really bad neck injury. But people don't realize, he was beating Ashnault, Nolf, Rutherford. He was beating those guys consistently in high school and didn't get a chance to wrestle collegiately. So he's right up there, too.
Dang, yeah. Great guy. That guy was a stud,
Oh,
man.
Bryce is awesome, yeah.
Biggest pet peeve in coaching? You're supposed to be rapid fire,
Yeah,
man.
man, I don't know.
Just kidding.
I try not to focus on other people's coaching too much, but
Maybe biggest pet peeve in general?
man, it's hard. I'm
That's
struggling
fair.
on that one. I'm gonna pass.
Okay, fine. Proudest moment in your personal career and then in your coaching career?
Probably having my son. Just as probably in my personal life, my coaching career. You said. This year, my nephew Maddox Blakely won IHSA State as a senior. He'd been close a couple times, and he came through the hardest 1A bracket by far. He had the hardest draw. Beat some really good guys on the way there, and you were down there. He had some exciting matches that were down to the wire. He ended up winning it. That's probably one of my proudest. And then the other one would probably be our girl Cadence Diddick. She won Fargo, and she's a very deserving kid, and I love her to death. So I was really proud of her.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And last question here, Josh Alber, what's the meaning of life?
Meaning of life. Oh, I thought
Can't pass.
Rapid fire is that's
That's
not
the
really
last one.
That's a deep question.
Last one.
Meaning of life. Do God's will. I think to do God's will, you're gonna get pulled to do other things and to get away from God's will. And if you can stick to it, there's another life coming after this life, and this life's in preparation or a test to get to that one. And I think that's the best we can do.
Right. Great answer. And that one that you're talking about that comes after lasts a lot longer too, so it's pretty important.
Yeah, it should be a guiding factor in our lives, I think. So it's very important.
Right. Well, Josh Alber, you got to get out of here. Thank you so much for your time, man. That was a great conversation. Best of luck in the future. You got a lot of things going for you, and I can't wait to watch what unfolds.
Yeah, I appreciate having me on. Hopefully I don't bore anyone, and I just man, I had a lot of fun with you, and you do a great job with this podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And before we go, thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to The Paul Garcia Show. If you like this episode, subscribe on YouTube, like my page on Facebook, and maybe even follow me on Instagram. But most importantly, share this episode with your friends and family. If you'd like to support the show financially, consider making a one-time donation on Venmo to username The Paul Garcia Show. And if you'd like to support the show and gain exclusive access to to every episode like this one, become a patron on patreon.com/Paul Garcia. Until next Sunday, I'm Paul Garcia. God bless and have a great week. And thank you again, Josh.
Thanks.
Absolutely.